Remember when six friends turned a coffee shop and an orange couch into the most recognizable living room on television? Almost none of it happened the way anyone planned. Today, we're counting down 20 weird facts you never knew about Friends. Number 20, Monica's apartment. The purple walls, the yellow peephole frame, the impossibly spacious New York living room that should have cost about $8,000 a month in rent. You know the space? You probably wish you lived there. But here's what you didn't know. Production designer John Schaffner didn't just pick a purple he liked. He chose that specific shade of Benjamin Moore purple because it flatters every single skin tone and hair color on camera. It was engineered for the actors. The yellow frame around the peephole wasn't planned either. Set decorator Greg Grande was on set one day, held up a broken gold picture frame, realized the color contrast against the purple was striking, and improvised it. He later called it a picture frame for the peephole through which you see your friends. Poetic. But there's more. Sharp-eyed viewers noticed Monica's apartment number changed from 5 to 20 partway through season 1. Chandler and Joey's apartment changed from 4 to 19. Why? Because apartment 5 would logically be on the ground floor, which contradicted the high floor window views. The original plan had the characters constantly climbing stairs as a running gag, but the joke wore thin in rehearsal. So production quietly moved them down a few floors, changed the numbers, and hoped nobody would notice. They were wrong. Every scene in that apartment was engineered to make 6 actors look their best on camera and hide a continuity mistake the crew never intended. Number 19, the opening credits. 6 friends splashing in a fountain, dancing, laughing, capturing pure joy. It's one of the most iconic images in television history. The fountain isn't in New York. It's on the Warner Brothers Ranch backlot in Burbank, California. Built in the 1930s. It also appeared in Bewitched and Hocus Pocus. The original plan was to shoot on a building rooftop that could pass for New York City, but wind and weather made it too expensive. Producer Kevin Bright and co-creator Marta Kauffman found the fountain on the lot instead. Filming took place at approximately 4 in the morning on a cold night. The water was technically heated, but it was still frigid. Lisa Kudrow later recalled the shoot as a nightmare with what felt like hundreds of takes of dancing. The cast was exhausted, frozen, losing energy. After hours of takes, when told they needed one more, Matthew Perry deadpanned that he couldn't remember a time he wasn't standing in a fountain. Kudrow burst out laughing. That genuine, exhausted laughter from the final takes is what made it into the credits audiences saw for 10 years. The joy in those credits isn't performed. It's the delirious laughter of 6 actors at 4 in the morning who have been standing in cold water for hours, held together by Perry's timing and Kudrow's inability to keep a straight face. Number 18, the Rachel, the layered, highlighted hairstyle that launched a global phenomenon in 1995. Women flooded salons worldwide, clutching magazine photos demanding the exact cut. It became the most requested hairstyle in the world. Here's the truth. Hairstylist Chris McMillan created the cut to repair Jennifer Aniston's damaged hair and grow out her bangs. It was not a planned, strategic look for the character. Aniston later revealed on The Graham Norton Show that McMillan was under the influence when he gave her the cut. Colorist Michael Canale created the highlights. The style first appeared around Season 1, Episode 20, and continued through the show's ratings peak in Season 2. Friends hair department head Richard Marin received fan mail criticizing any subsequent changes to Rachel's hair. The irony? Aniston has been vocally negative about the style for decades. She told Allure in 2011 that McMillan was both someone she loved and the bane of her existence for starting the trend. She described it as the ugliest haircut she had ever seen. She told Glamour in 2015 it was cringy. The style required McMillan to be on hand constantly because Aniston couldn't replicate it herself with a hairbrush and blow dryer. The most iconic hairstyle in TV history was an accident its owner actively despised and couldn't even style herself. Every time Rachel walked on screen with that hair, millions of women envied a look Jennifer Aniston couldn't wait to change. Number 17, Marcel, Ross's adorable pet capuchin monkey in Season 1. He sits on Ross's shoulder, pushes play on the stereo, and becomes the breakout star of early episodes. Behind the scenes, the cast broadly disliked working with the monkey, who was played by 2 female capuchins named Katie and Monkey. David Schwimmer was the most vocal opponent. He told Entertainment Weekly in 1995 he hated the monkey and wished it were dead. At the 2021 reunion, Schwimmer elaborated. The monkey was trained to hit marks at specific times, but inevitably messed up choreographed bits the actors had timed out perfectly. Between takes, the monkey stayed perched on Schwimmer's shoulder, while the trainer fed it live bugs, which spilled onto him. Schwimmer also said the trainers forbade him from bonding with the animal. The feud went public. Animal trainer Mike Morris called Schwimmer despicable in an interview with The Sun, claiming the actor was jealous that Marcel got laughs. Jennifer Aniston liked the monkey. Courtney Cox was scared of it. Matt LeBlanc was sympathetic to Schwimmer since he had to work with it the most. Marcel was written off as having reached sexual maturity and sent to the San Diego Zoo. Entertainment Weekly later called giving Ross a pet monkey the show's biggest blunder. Every Marcel scene now reads as a man doing take after take with an animal he openly detested, covered in bug residue. Number 16. I'll Be There For You by the Rembrandts. 4 claps, instantly recognizable worldwide. The pilot originally used REM's Shiny Happy People. Warner Brothers Television wanted to license an REM track permanently. The band declined. Executive producer Kevin Bright wanted a similar up-tempo feel and was a fan of the Rembrandts' Danny Wilde and Phil Solemn, who happened to be on Warner Brothers Records. The Rembrandts were reluctant. Phil Solemn later said that in the mid-90s, it was uncool for a band like theirs to be involved in television. They initially asked to remain anonymous. The theme was composed by Michael Skloff, Marta Kauffman's husband, with lyrics co-written by David Crane, Marta Kauffman, and songwriter Allie Willis. The Rembrandts recorded it on short notice. The 4 hand claps were a spontaneous addition during a late recording session. Solemn recalled they had been drinking, were getting punchy, and decided to rap for the night when someone threw in the claps. They became possibly the most recognizable 4 beats in television history. The theme went from TV jingle to global hit by accident when a Nashville radio DJ looped the short version into a full-length track and played it on air. It became so popular that Warner Brothers Records forced the Rembrandts to record a proper full version. The most Pavlovian sound in sitcom history was a drunken afterthought by a band that didn't want anyone to know they were involved. Number 15. Joey Tribbiani, the lovable, confident actor who never seems to worry about money despite never having any. Before being cast, Matt LeBlanc was essentially destitute. He told Conan O'Brien that he had exactly $11 in his bank account. So little that even if he had quit acting and gotten a waiter job, he would have starved before the first paycheck arrived. He also did his own dental work, filing down a tooth with an emery board to save money before getting headshots. The night before his friend's audition, LeBlanc went out, fell, and injured his nose. When he walked into the audition room and Marta Kauffman asked what happened, his retelling of the story had the room in stitches and helped win her over. Here's the twist. Crane and Kauffman didn't initially want him. Joey was originally conceived as a smooth Al Pacino-type ladies' man. NBC told the creators to cast LeBlanc anyway. It was one of the few times the network overrode the showrunners on casting. Casting director Ellie Canner later confirmed the story in interviews. It turned out to be the right call. Every scene of Joey confidently strutting through New York, hitting on women, living his best life despite being perpetually broke, was played by a man who, weeks before filming, couldn't afford to fix his own teeth. LeBlanc brought authenticity to Joey's financial struggles because he had lived them. The confidence was performance. The broke part was real. Number 14. The perfect 6-person ensemble. 3 women, 3 men, no extraneous characters diluting the dynamic. After picking up the pilot, NBC executives worried the cast was too young and wouldn't attract older viewers. They mandated that Crane and Kauffman add a 7th character, an older, wiser figure who could dispense advice. The creators reluctantly complied. They wrote a draft featuring Pat the Cop, inspired by a real police officer who used to hang out at a movie theater where Dreamin' writers Jeff Greenstein and Jeff Strauss had worked during college. The role was actually cast. The actor's identity remains unknown. Kauffman and Crane hated the result. They pleaded with NBC to drop the character. As a compromise, they promised to give the 6 leads visible parents in recurring roles and bring in notable older guest stars. NBC relented. Pat the Cop was eliminated. This compromise directly led to the creation of Jack and Judy Geller, played by Elliot Gould and Christina Pickles, 2 of the show's most beloved recurring characters. Kauffman later joked about the ordeal, saying, "You know the kid's book, Pat the Bunny? We had Pat the Cop. The ensemble you love almost had a 7th wheel, a cop who showed up to give life advice to 20-somethings in a coffee shop." Thank goodness cooler heads prevailed. The 6-person dynamic is what made the show work. 7 would have broken it. Number 13, the pilot. Rachel bursting into Central Perk in a wedding dress, the beginning of a cultural phenomenon. After test audiences screened the pilot in May 1994, NBC circulated an internal research report. The language was brutal. The report described the pilot as not very entertaining, clever, or original. Only Monica generated meaningful interest from the test audience. But even her scores were well below desirable levels for a lead. Ross generated little sympathy. Rachel was dismissed as a scarcely believable spoiled brat. Chandler and Joey barely registered. The coffeehouse setting was called confusing. Despite this damning assessment, NBC president Warren Littlefield went ahead with the show largely as written. The network did push back on individual elements. They thought the coffee shop was too hip and suggested replacing it with a diner. Like Seinfeld, they worried about Monica sleeping with a date in the pilot. Kauffman and Crane held firm on the major creative choices. Every character who barely registered or generated little sympathy in that report went on to become one of the most recognized fictional people on Earth. Ross became the emotional anchor. Rachel became a cultural icon. Chandler became the show's comedic heartbeat. Joey became a beloved idiot. Monica became the glue. The coffeehouse became one of the most famous fictional locations in television history. NBC's research department got it spectacularly wrong. Littlefield trusted his instincts. Television would never be the same. Number 12, the one where Rachel tells, Season 8, Episode 3, which aired October 11th, 2001, exactly 1 month after the September 11th attacks. The original version featured a storyline where Chandler at the airport reads a sign about federal law prohibiting jokes about hijacking or bombs and immediately makes a joke about bombs to a security agent. After being detained and cleared, Monica makes an unrelated comment that lands them back in interrogation. The entire airport subplot played Chandler's inability to filter himself for laughs. The episode had already been filmed when the attacks occurred. NBC called for immediate rewrites and reshoots. Kevin Bright told Digital Spy that September 11th threw the writing team a curveball and that they felt the show was comfort food, meaning they had to be funnier than they had ever been during a national crisis rather than darker. The entire Chandler and Monica airport storyline was scrapped and replaced with a comedic rivalry against another newlywed couple at the airport who keeps getting travel perks. The original unaired scenes were later included as bonus material on the UK Season 8 DVD release. In subsequent episodes, cast members wore FDNY and NYPD shirts as a quiet tribute. Knowing the reshot version exists means the Season 8 airport scenes carry a hidden weight, a creative team scrambling to provide comfort television in the worst month in modern American memory. They succeeded. The show remained funny without feeling tone deaf. Number 11, the one with the lesbian wedding, Season 2, Episode 11. Carol and Susan's Ceremony, one of the first same-sex weddings on network television, aired January 18, 1996. NBC was terrified. Marta Kauffman told The Hollywood Reporter that everybody was up in arms. NBC put 104 telephone operators on standby for fear of getting 1 million phone calls. The result? They received only 2 to 4 complaints by telephone. 2 local affiliates, KJAC-TV in Port Arthur, Texas, and WLIO in Lima, Ohio, refused to air the episode entirely. KJAC's station manager stated the episode didn't meet the prevailing standards of good taste in their community. The ceremony was officiated by Candace Gingrich, a gay rights activist and half-sibling of then Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich, a deliberate casting choice that doubled as a political statement. An AP writer noted the ceremony did not include a kiss between the newlyweds, part of a broader pattern of portraying gay characters while minimizing physical affection. The episode was the highest-rated program of the week with 31.6 million viewers. Executive producer Kevin Bright reflected in 2021 that the lesbian wedding was a combination of being astounded they got away with it and so happy they were the ones to do it. The episode that NBC expected to sink the show became its biggest ratings weapon, and 104 operators sat around doing essentially nothing all night. Alright, we're at the halfway mark and things are about to get even wilder. Before we hit the top 10, what's your favorite Friends quote or moment? Drop it in the comments below, and if you're enjoying this, smash that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Number 10, the one where no one's ready, Season 3, Episode 2, the beloved bottle episode set entirely in Monica's apartment with everyone racing to get ready for Ross's museum benefit. This was designed as the cheapest, simplest episode of the season. One set, no guest stars, no special effects. During the scene where Joey and Chandler race each other for a chair, Matt LeBlanc took a bad fall on the fourth take and dislocated his shoulder. David Schwimmer recalled that LeBlanc went totally white and his shoulder was visibly displaced. Filming stopped immediately. LeBlanc was taken to the hospital. Because the bottle episode format required all 6 actors in every scene, production couldn't continue without him. Making matters worse, the live studio audience that night were special contest winners from a Diet Coke promotion who had been flown in from across the country. They had to be flown back and then flown in again for the rescheduled taping. LeBlanc's injury was written into the next 2 episodes as Joey having hurt himself jumping on his bed. David Crane said at the reunion that what started out to be the simplest Friends episode ended up taking the longest amount of time to shoot. Watch the chair race again. You're seeing the exact moment LeBlanc's shoulder left its socket. The grimace isn't acting. The pain is real. What was supposed to be a cost-saving bottle episode became a logistical nightmare and one of the most expensive episodes of the season. Number 9. Gunther, the bleach blonde barista with an unrequited crush on Rachel who became one of the show's most enduring characters. James Michael Tyler was hired as an uncredited, non-speaking extra. Central Perk needed background actors, and Tyler was the only one who knew how to operate an espresso machine because he was an actual barista at the Bourgeois Pig coffee shop in Hollywood. The machine was never actually plugged in during filming. It was too loud. Tyler mimed operating it. His bleached hair was a complete accident. The night before his first Friends appearance, a hairdresser friend asked to practice bleaching on Tyler's hair. The producers loved the look and kept it for the entire run. Tyler had to bleach his hair every week for 10 years. Tyler appeared approximately 33 times as an unnamed silent background figure. Then, co-creator Marta Kauffman finally asked if he had any acting experience. Tyler replied that he had a Master of Fine Arts in acting. The following week, his character was given the name Gunther and his first line of dialogue. He went on to appear in over 148 episodes. After Tyler's death in 2021, Kauffman and Crane issued a statement noting that his unique spirit caught their eye. Every early Central Perk scene features Tyler silently working in the background, a man with an MFA in acting, waiting 33 episodes for someone to ask if he could talk. Number 8. The cold open of The One with the Ultimate Fighting Champion, Season 3, Episode 24. 2 strangers in Central Perk have a loud, escalating argument about infidelity and a gynecologist. Robin Williams and Billy Crystal were filming the movie Father's Day on a neighboring Warner Brothers soundstage. They wandered over to the Friends set during a break. The writers invited them to do an impromptu cameo. The entire scene was completely improvised. No script, no rehearsal, no planned bit. Williams' character suspects his wife is having an affair with Crystal's character, who happens to be her gynecologist. The escalating absurdity, Joey's interruption, Monica forgetting her own story. All of it was spontaneous. This remains one of the most celebrated cameos in the show's history, and it was essentially 2 comedy legends killing time between takes on a different movie. Nothing in that scene was written. Every line, every reaction, every escalation was 2 of the greatest comedic minds in history, riffing in real time. Matt LeBlanc and Courtney Cox had no idea what was about to happen. They just held on and tried not to break. It's a masterclass in improvisational comedy, and it exists because 2 guys got bored on a soundstage and decided to wander over and see what was happening next door. The Friends writers were smart enough to let them cook. Number 7. Joey's lovable, food-obsessed, intellectually challenged persona. A character who once asked if Chandler could hold down the fort and then built a tiny fort out of sugar packets. Joey Tribbiani was originally written as a smooth, intelligent, Pacino-type ladies' man. David Crane confirmed that Joey was never stupid when they pitched the show. The character was conceived as a traditional womanizer who loved women, sports, women, New York, and women. The problem? Joey and Chandler were virtually identical characters. Both quick-witted, both sarcastic, both chasing women. Legendary sitcom director James Burrows, who directed the pilot and 15 episodes total and was known for Cheers, identified the issue and told Kauffman and Crane to dumb up Joey to differentiate him from Chandler. Matt LeBlanc leaned into this, playing Joey not as stupid, but as operating on a parallel universe stream of logic. In his memoir, Matthew Perry identified the breakthrough moment. During a conversation on set, Courtney Cox asked LeBlanc about a girl he was dating and whether he had considered being emotionally supportive. LeBlanc, as Joey, simply couldn't grasp the concept. Perry wrote that this was the moment he turned from being a ladies' man to a lovable, useless, dumb puppy. Without Burroughs' note, you would have had two sarcastic guys competing for the same jokes. Every "how you doin'" exists because a director said the two male leads were interchangeable. Number 6. The Season 4 finale cliffhanger. Ross at the altar, about to marry Emily, uttering the words, "I, Ross, take thee, Rachel." One of the most jaw-dropping moments in sitcom history. The idea came directly from a real accident. During a rehearsal for a different episode, David Schwimmer accidentally said, "Rachel, the taxi's here," instead of "Emily, the taxi's here." Writer Greg Malins was present, immediately went to co-creator David Crane and said, "That's it." A real-life slip of the tongue became one of TV's most iconic scripted moments. The London episodes where this aired were the only Friends episodes filmed outside Burbank, shot at the Fountain Studios, Wembley, in March 1998. Lisa Kudrow stayed in California because she was too pregnant to fly. Her son was born the same day the episode aired. Celebrity cameos included Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, Hugh Laurie as the man sitting next to Rachel on the plane, and Richard Branson as a souvenir vendor. Director James Burrows later wrote in his memoir that Helen Baxendale, who played Emily, was nice but not particularly funny, comparing the pairing to clapping with one hand. Baxendale's real-life pregnancy during Season 4 filming forced the writers to shorten Emily's arc. She appeared in only 14 episodes total. The most shocking wedding moment in TV history wasn't a dramatic writer's room brainstorm. It was a tired actor flubbing a line in rehearsal and a writer smart enough to recognize what had just happened. Number 5. The final scene of Friends. The empty apartment. Rachel suggests getting coffee. Chandler's single-word response closes 10 years of television. Before the finale was filmed, Matthew Perry pulled co-creator Marta Kauffman aside. In his memoir, Perry wrote that he told her, "Nobody else will care about this except me. So, may I please have the last line?" Kauffman agreed. When Rachel suggests one last coffee, Chandler responds with "Where?" a dry callback to a decade spent in a coffee shop. The line was entirely improvised by Perry in the moment. Perry wrote that he loved the look on Schwimmer's face as the line landed, calling it the perfect mixture of affection and amusement. Kauffman later reflected that the moment became incredibly poignant and one of his many legacies. This wasn't Perry's only ad-lib to make the final cut. Throughout the series, Perry's improvisational instinct shaped Chandler's voice. In one Season 4 episode, Perry accidentally said "blue blazer black" instead of "back," and the cast stayed in character, with Monica mocking the mistake. The genuine flub was funnier than the scripted line. The finale was filmed on January 23, 2004, on Stage 24 at Warner Brothers Studios. The cast walked out together for their final bow. After the final taping, Stage 24 was permanently renamed the Friends Stage. The last word ever spoken on Friends wasn't in any script. It was an improvised joke by an actor who quietly asked for the privilege of turning off the lights. Number 4. Chandler Bing. The sarcastic, insecure, deeply quotable heart of the ensemble, played for 10 seasons by Matthew Perry. When Perry first read the Friends Like Us pilot script, he recognized himself in Chandler immediately. He later wrote that reading the script felt as if someone had followed him around for a year, stealing his jokes, copying his mannerisms. But Perry was contractually committed to LAX 2194. A Fox pilot about futuristic baggage handlers, and couldn't audition. Co-creator David Crane confirmed that no one could do it in auditions. The role that seemed easiest to cast became the hardest. Perry, unable to audition himself, coached his friend Craig Bierko for the part. Perry, Bierko, and Hank Azaria had a breakfast meeting reviewing both scripts. Bierko was offered the part and turned it down, choosing a different pilot called Best Friends. Perry later wrote that he couldn't believe his ears. Meanwhile, NBC producer Jamie Tarsis asked her then-husband, Fox producer Dan McDermott, whether LAX 2194 would be picked up. His answer? No, it's awful. Perry was suddenly free. He auditioned, knowing the script by heart from coaching others, and nailed all 3 rounds. He was the last of the 6 to be cast. NBC president Warren Littlefield later said of Bierko, "Thank God, there was something snidely whiplash about Craig Bierko." 2 years later, Bierko called Perry and simply could not handle that Perry became rich and famous on a show Bierko had turned down. Number 3. Rachel Green walking into Central Perk in a wedding dress in the pilot, the entrance that launched Jennifer Aniston's career. When Aniston auditioned, she was contractually bound to a CBS series called Muddling Through, which was airing during the summer of 1994. Her role on Friends was cast as second position, meaning if Muddling Through was renewed, the Friends producers would have had to recast Rachel. Marta Kauffman has said Rachel was the part that was hardest to cast. NBC Entertainment President Warren Littlefield correctly predicted that Muddling Through would fail, but he wasn't content to leave it to chance. According to casting director Ellie Canner and multiple production accounts, once CBS discovered that the Friends pilot was generating significant buzz, CBS allegedly ordered additional Muddling Through episodes to try to keep Aniston contractually tied up. NBC responded by strategically counter-programming strong content against Muddling Through to tank its ratings. The gambit worked. Muddling Through's final episode aired just 2 weeks before the Friends premiere on September 22, 1994. Aniston was free. She had also turned down a spot on Saturday Night Live to take the Friends role. Other actresses seriously considered for Rachel included Téa Leoni and Tiffany Thiessen. Rachel Green almost didn't exist. NBC had to wage a quiet scheduling war against a rival network to make sure their Rachel could actually show up on premiere night. Number 2. Ross and Rachel. The will they won't they romance that defined 1990s television, from The Lobster to I Got Off the Plane. When Crane and Kauffman originally pitched the series to NBC, the planned central romance was between Joey and Monica, not Ross and Rachel. The creators considered Joey and Monica the most sexual of the 6 characters. David Crane told NBC News in 2004, "Initially we thought the big love interest was Joey Monica. This is before we wrote the script, when we were just pitching the series." Marta Kauffman added, "They just seemed the most sexual of the characters." Then something unexpected happened. Crane continued, "We didn't know. When we pitched the show, the idea of Ross and Rachel, that was something we discovered writing it. The Ross-Rachel dynamic emerged organically during the pilot script. The pining paleontologist and the runaway bride. From that accidental discovery came the we were on a break debate, the airport chase, the prom video reveal. The we were on a break storyline itself was not originally planned for season 3. Executive producer Kevin Bright told Metro in 2018 that getting Ross and Rachel together had drained the show of sexual tension, so the breakup became a narrative necessity. The deliberate ambiguity was designed by David Crane to be genuinely arguable from both sides. The defining romance of 1990s television was never supposed to exist. It was found by accident in the writing of the first script. Number 1. Monica and Chandler. The couple who went from friends to lovers to married parents. It was supposed to last 1 episode. Co-creator David Crane told Today in 2019, "We didn't really know that Chandler and Monica were going to end up together until even after that episode in London where they wake up in bed together." And the audience went insane. Marta Kauffman confirmed, "We thought it was going to be funny, and we were going to get rid of it. Suddenly, the audience told us they had been waiting for that." The season 4 finale was filmed at the Fountain Studios in Wembley, London, in March 1998. The scene where Monica pokes her head out from under Chandler's bed covers was performed 3 times for 3 separate studio audiences of 500 people each. All 3 audiences had the same volcanic reaction. Writer Scott Silveri described the cheering as thunderous. Matthew Perry and Courtney Cox had to hold their positions for approximately 27 seconds while the audience screamed. But the chemistry between Perry and Cox made it impossible to end. When a season 5 script had Chandler cheating on Monica, Perry himself went to the writers and argued the audience would never forgive the character. The scene was rewritten. Every Monica and Chandler moment from season 5 onward was never in any plan. A live audience screamed for nearly half a minute and told the writers these two are the love story now. Friends was not a master plan executed flawlessly. It was a series of accidents, compromises, and audience interventions. The greatest love story was improvised by a crowd. Chandler almost belonged to a man who turned the role down. What made Friends work wasn't that everything went right. A writer heard a name slip and said, "That's it." A producer heard an audience scream and threw out the script. An actor asked for the last line, and his improvised word became the show's final breath. Friends endures because it listened to its actors, its audiences, and its own happy accidents. If this video surprised you, drop your favorite fact in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who loves this show. And as always, we'll be there for you. We'll see you next time.